Hello, YouTube family and friends. How are we doing? Today, we're talking about self guidance. Today, we're talking about self guidance. We're talking about what self guidance is, what it looks like. Even actually, more importantly, we'll talk about what self guidance isn't. We'll talk about why it's so important. We'll talk about who it's for, who is not so dependent on it, versus others who are. So let's get straight into it. Self guidance. The reason this came up, well, I was actually just skipping through my notes and then I just read this line that I wrote eventually that just said, nobody can guide you. You have to guide yourself. There's nobody out there that can guide you. You have to guide yourself. And that when I read it just stuck with me and I was like, yep, this is today's topic. We're going to talk about that today. And the thing with self guidance is actually it starts a couple steps earlier. It starts really with the desire to throw things out, the desire to clear out, the desire to release baggage, let things go, the desire to just feel more light by being able to focus on the very few things that actually matter in our lives, right? It actually starts with that. You know, every time we feel paralyzed, every time we feel overwhelmed, every time we feel like we're not really moving ahead, the more ambitious you are as a person, the more this is going to frustrate you, obviously. Um, so whenever we feel that way, you know, we can feel very drawn to no, actually let me start a little bit earlier even. Whenever we feel that way, whenever we feel like stuck and paralyzed or whatnot, it is usually because it's just too many things. It's just too many things happening. It's too many things occupying our minds. It's just too many things, people, persons, situations, conditions, right? So those are the things that give us the sense of being paralyzed because it's too much. It is simply too much. And now in this condition that then we find ourselves in, the more ambitious you are, you know, if you haven't woken up to the spiritual side of things and follow the spiritual nature and like the natural law of things, you will feel tempted to add even more guidance and things and inspiration and things to guide you from the outside, which will add to this feeling of being stuck and being paralyzed and overwhelmed, you know? So everything really starts with this desire to let go, this desire to just like be freed up from all of that. And this is interestingly where the concept of self-guidance is actually coming in. Because self-guidance, true self-guidance, is something that cannot be found elsewhere other than inside of ourselves. True self-guidance is something that no matter how much someone loves you, no matter how knowledgeable someone is, no matter how much expertise someone has in a field, no matter how many years of experience they have, I know, right? It's crazy. No matter how advanced they are in all of these things, self guidance is something that ultimately not even these people can give you because it is something that is innate to you and innate to your path. And this links back to the idea of genius that we are all born with to then bring into this world. So the interesting thing is not only are we born with this genius right from the start that's trying to come out, we're also born with the instructions to actually bring that out. We're also born with the instructions literally on how to structure our days and live our everyday lives in order to bring that out. We are born with the gift itself and we are born with the path to fulfilling it. We're born with both. So not only is the gift in us, but also the instructions. Not only is the goal inside of you, but also is the path, right? And so self guidance in that context just gets, another layer of understanding again for us, because self guidance again is something, if it's something for people who are walking their path, are obsessed with, dedicated to. Why is the sun so strong now? Oh my God. Are you agreeing? Yeah. It's so hot, guys. Anyway, the person who is still living a life that was given to them, a person that is still living a life that they somehow just, adopted, that just made sense, that was kind of given to them, that was kind of pre-planned, just the thing you were doing. And I have been on that path too, up until what, like 7, 8, 9 years ago, right? I mean, I always did stuff that I genuinely loved, and I always did stuff that I was genuinely passionate about. But a big portion of my life, like the structure used to be I was working in a job because it made sense to work in a job at that point in time. You know what I mean? So whenever we still find ourselves in, a life structure where things just happened that way without us really having been intentional and it having come from the inside out, right? We are in a certain auto autopilot state still, right? So when you are still in this autopilot state, self-guidance, I mean, self-guidance is always relevant, but I'm saying if you put that person next to the person that has woken up to, hey, there's actually more for me to do, there's actually more for me to achieve, there's actually something that I really fully have to focus in this lifetime, or I will leave here feeling unsatisfied. And I'm now taking my whole life and focusing it towards that. If you put these two people next to each other, the person who has awoken to whatever they need to do in this lifetime, they will need self guidance way more than the first person that is still running on autopilot and still, collecting their experiences here and there and doing what they have to do in this period of their lives. And again, as always, there's no judgment. There's no superior this, inferior that, in none of this. All of this is a spectrum. All of this is, different phases in people's lives or lifetimes, right? They are all valid. They're all part of the whole. They're all equally the all. Okay, to make that clear. But to make that distinction, when self-guidance is, like really really gets into play, and which is the reason why we're talking about it on this channel and today, is, people who have woken up and are like, okay, I need to get down to business. This is it, right? For you guys, self-guidance takes on another level of relevance, importance. um And that is simply that you have now left the path that has been laid out. You are now on your own path. And when you are now on your own path, you can't rely on other people anymore. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter how knowledgeable someone is, it doesn't matter how much expertise someone has. You can read all the books in the world, you can, do all of these things. They can never replace the knowing that is inside of you, that is always accessible to you, that you can always tune into. Like for the smallest things, in the smallest moments, you can tune into that and see what that means for you. Nothing can replace that, because that intuition, that inner knowing, is something again that is indigenous to your soul and the thing you came to do and put into the world, right? So, therefore, when we now go back to what I said earlier about whenever we feel overwhelmed or paralyzed, there is a correlation. There's a correlation between the amount of things that we input that we consume and our level of feeling stuck. This is actually a real thing. The more we consume, the more we learn, the more we like take in. Doesn't matter the noble and ambitious motivation behind that, because a lot of times we do this because we are so devoted to our goals and we're like, okay, while I do my makeup, I'm going to listen to this podcast. Then I'm going to read that. And while I'm reading that, I'm going to listen to this YouTube video. Right. So we think because we're so devoted to this that the more we learn, the more we gather, the more we input, the better off we'll be, the better equipped we will be for our goal. However, message of today is ironically, this actually produces the opposite result. The more input we take, the more we actually will feel overwhelmed and then paralyzed and then end up not doing anything at all. This is a real thing. This is a real thing. And I want you to think back to, either if you're feeling that right now or you have been feeling it in the past. Um, I just want you to observe that for yourself. Like, don't take my word for it. As always, don't take my word for it. Like, if I tell you this, look at how it does or maybe doesn't apply to your life, right? But I studied entrepreneurship and management, and there was a huge chunk of innovation studies in there. And there's this term that they call actionable knowledge. Okay, especially in when people study entrepreneurs, when people study like people making things or the process of making things, the process of creating things, when they study that, and they observed how people were moving, how people were navigating, how people were taking things in, or like just observing them, how they went about it, who was successful under which criteria and such. This term actionable knowledge keeps coming up. And actionable knowledge is knowledge that is relevant right now for what you're doing right now. Okay. Let's say I want to open a shop, and I need to figure out how to set up the checkout process, like, right? So while I'm doing that and I'm building my online shop, now it's highly helpful, relevant, and progress inducing if I look into all the self checkout or like all the platforms that do checkout. This is actionable knowledge. This is knowledge that you consume, that you use directly to take the next step. Actionable knowledge, therefore, is, as you can hear, very situational, very to the exact point that you're at right now. And opposed to that is the, I guess, regular knowledge. I don't know if they had a word that they differentiated that from. But if you look at then our culture, this productivity culture of like consuming this, consuming that, listening to this podcast, watching this YouTube video, in the meantime, scrolling and saving 5 reels. You see where this is going? We do all of this, we take all of this in with the desire to, propel us further. But what it really does is it overwhelms us. And because it is not actionable knowledge, it's just now a vault of things. It's just, you've just created baggage for yourself. I'm just seeing myself again for the first time. I was just blinded this whole time. You've created baggage for yourself while thinking you were creating the best conditions for yourself to move ahead, right? So, when I speak about self guidance, it's just so important to make this have this clarity that we're not actually talking about just another source to add to our information pool. The correct conditions for self-guidance, the only conditions for self-guidance actually are actually the opposite, is removing things. It's having the courage, and courage fueled by understanding, obviously. Um, Having the courage and the understanding, or like the knowing of why, to remove inputs, to not listen to voices, to not listen to opinions, to not listen to this expert, to not listen to, you know, that industry veteran who has been doing this for 30 years and they're so successful. None of that matters. It does not matter for you. Listen, I'm someone who I am on YouTube as a creator, but I'm heavily on YouTube consuming things. I have creators that I love, that I learned so much from. Some come and go, some have been staying for longer. That's a very small handful, not even a handful. But I know what it means to take information in and learn. I love learning. I'm an avid learner, okay? Like I will always do. I learn just for the fun of it as well. But let me give you this very key filter that's going to actually decide whether this learning and taking in is going to help you or not. And that is to understand that everything we ever consume, the highest outcome of that can only ever be inspiration. Inspiration, was that Nipsey Hussle? The highest act of, a human being is to inspire. Inspiration Inspiration is what we can draw from outside sources. We can look at things, we can, like take things in. And the thing we want to look for is inspiration, is meaning, what's inspiration? It's the spark that comes. And inspiration as a spark is usually it's a recognition. You see something, something sparks. It's not necessarily that you saw that and then you put that in your brain and now it's part of your brain. Is you saw something, there has been a mirror somewhere in you, and that mirroring sets off like sparks. That's inspiration. That's a remembering. That's a, oh, okay, some I can't grasp it yet. It doesn't match my everyday life now, but there's something, there's energy, right? This is what we can expect from taking in content, knowledge from the outside. This is what we legitimately can look for and should only look for, right? Because when we take this too serious, when we look at other people's stuff as too seriously, we will start mistaking their self guidance as our self guidance. Ooh, that one right there. We will start mistaking their self guidance for our self guidance. Everything a person says is always from their point of view, right? And then if you have studies of people who have been looking at the whole population over the period of 21 years, then even worse, now you have like the watered down opinion of a whole population. What is that worth for your life? What is that worth for your life, right? So, in getting closer to this self guidance, whatever that is, we'll get to it. Not fully today, but over the course of this channel and in my work in general. Um, Before we get there is this understanding, first and foremost, that outside information can never give you more than inspiration, and that is a noble thing. Being inspired is a good thing, but to just have this, just know how to position it and don't make it larger than it is. Inspiration is something very powerful. Inspiration is something that is very important, but it is always important to remember that inspiration is also a mirroring. It's also something. It's a reminder. It's something that is sparking up inside of you. It's sparkling up inside of you because you're seeing that. So now, through inspiration, you're actually being brought back to yourself. And now you're wondering, oh, what was that? What just responded to that? What just got fired and triggered by that, like in the best way? Then you start your own search, right? But we do not mistake that for the answer because the answer does not exist out there. There's only your answer. There's no such thing as the path, the way, the strategy. There's only your path, your way, your strategy. So, that with self guidance, before we move into self guidance, this is the very first piece of understanding that is necessary because without that, we will be very likely, in the name of ambition and wanting to make progress, to cling onto things that actually don't serve us, right? So that is the very first thing. Whenever we do that, it's good to just be aware that we are clinging to that and then remind ourselves like, oh, actually, it has nothing to do with me, right? It's a certain act of courage in motion. You are practicing courage through that. Um, you also need courage to practice courage. But anyway, so that's that. As for what self guidance actually is, how it really works, let's talk about that in the next live, or like in a future session, because I think it's important to let this one sink first. The very first part of taking advantage of self guidance is the ability to let go of everything that is somebody else's self guidance. Okay. Yeah, that was today's message. That was today's message. You don't need everything. You don't need everybody's opinion. You don't need everybody's knowledge. You don't need everybody's expertise. Everybody that has expertise, knowledge, bless them. Great. It's amazing for them. They did amazing things in the world with that, hopefully. But your success, your thriving, your path does not depend on that. On the contrary, trying to take that on is actually going to water down and disorient you unnecessarily. The thing that you're looking for is in you. The guidance that you're looking for is in you. So this is where we're going to stop today. Wishing you guys a lovely weekend. I'll see you guys next week.